So in your notebooks, I want you guys to write this down. WTD, write this down. So the phrase is called is over of. Is over of. And this doesn't make sense quite yet, but I'm going to explain it to you, and it's going to just kind of be pieced together, hopefully quicker than not. I also want you to write this down. It matches. So we're going to have number over number is going to be equal to some percent over some percent. Some percent over 100%. Now, this is always what it's going to be. Exactly. You can use an X for your variable. This is how it's always going to be. I know, once again, it doesn't make much sense yet, but once we see an example, it's going to make sense. So what this means is when we have it, let's look at this. 15 is 30% of what number? So as we see, what we have here is we have our is over our of, right? Now, 15 is. That means 15 is on the top because our top is our is. Then the last thing is what number? When we don't know the number, what do we use instead, Hannah? A variable. And almost always we use X. Almost always. Here's the thing. We could use any variable we ever wanted. We could use L. We can use M. We could use smiley face. We could use star. The thing is, we just typically use X because it's like, I remember it like pirates. X marks the spot. Doesn't matter. So what we see here is 15 is over what number of? So 15 is over what number of? And then it already mentioned we have 30%. So we have our 30%, and it's always over 100%. Whenever we're doing this, we want our arrows to point to the X, to the X. Doesn't matter which side X is on, we want it to point to the X. So how do we go from 30 to 15? How do we go from 30 to 15, Elsie? Divide by 2. So what are we going to do to the 100? Rafi? Divide by 2. Why do we do that? Who remembers the saying? Miles?
Oh, I forgot to...
Madison, what's the saying?
What we do to the bottom, we do to the top.
What we do to the bottom, we do to the top. What we do to one side, we do to the other. Those are the same things. So what is 100 divided by 2? What's 100 divided by 2, Fernando? 50. So, who can say the sentence? 15 is 30% of Miles.
15 is 30% of 50.
Yes, 15 is 30% of 50. So this is how we do it. I already had an extra slide there. So I want you guys to try this problem first. 225 is 75% of what number? 225 is 75% of what number? Okay, remember we do is over of. Is over of. 225 is 75% of what number? It's 75% of what number? Is that less than 100 or more than 100? 75. Is that less than 100 or more? That's less than 100. So if 225 is less than 100, our number is going to be bigger than 225. Because 225 is less than that 100, our number has to be bigger. Our end number is going to be bigger than 225. So let's do this together. Ready? 225 is 75% over the 100% of what number? Of what number? Now we have to see how we go from here, and we do the same to here. Hannah, how do we go from 75 to 225? We multiply it by 3. So we do the same to the bottom, and we get x equals 300. Exactly. So I want you to go to page 156, 157, and pick 4 of either A, B, C, D, E, F, or G. So we get this problem. 30, I'm writing in highlighter. We get 30 is, once again, that means it's on the top. We know percents are always on the other side. 50% over 100% of what? So that's here. 30 is of what, right? Now, we can't go from 50 to 30 easily. That doesn't work. But what we can do is simplify our fraction in the middle. 50 over 100. What does that simplify to? Who can tell me, Michelle? 1/2. How do I go from 1 to 30? How do I go from 1 to 30? We multiply it by, Rocco?
I didn't do those.
By 30. We multiply this by 30. We get x equals 60. Awesome. You could also do it in your head, but it's okay if you didn't. 60 is 20% of what number? 60 is. We get 60 over x is equal to 20% over 100%, right? How do we go from 20 to 60? We do it 3 times. So we do this 3 times. So we get x equals 300. For E, because I know E is hard.
Oh, it's easy.
In this problem, 9 is of what? So, our is over of. Who can tell me? What's our is, Hannah? Our is 9. What's our of? What's our of, Romario? Well, no, our of is not 36. That's a good guess. What's our of, Jenna? The variable x. The variable x. And then we're always equal to the percents on the other side. Remember that earlier slide I showed you? Remember the earlier slide I showed you right there?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, here we are. How do I go from 36 to 9? How do I go from 36 to 9? Michelle? Divide by 4. So what am I going to do to the bottom? What am I going to do to the bottom, Rafi? I'm going to divide by 4. So, what's 100 divided by 4? What's 100 divided by 4? Anita? 25. So, the answer is x equals 25. Our answer is 25. Peyton spent 60%. So, we know that's 60% over 100%. That's always on our percent side. Percents over percents, numbers over number. And then it says, of her money. Of her money. Do we know how much money she has? No. We don't know how much money she has. So where does that go? Where does the x go? Top or bottom? Top or bottom, Oswaldo? It says of her money. Nathan, where does our variable, where does our of variable go? On the top or the bottom? It goes on the bottom because it's is over of. So then we don't know. The television cost $300. So she spent $300 of her amount of money. She spent $300 of her money. So then, how do we go from 60 to 300? Trey? Times 5. How do we go? So what do we do, Ben? Times 5. So what is x equal to, Ben? 500. Excellent. Go to page 158. It's guided practice. Do numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. But ignore the double number line. Ignore the double number line. I think that it makes it more confusing. So, 63 is. Where does the 63 go, Michelle? The top, right there. Is 90%. Where does that 90% go, Miles? Exactly. What goes on the bottom of that one, Fernando? 100%. Always 100%. I don't care what it is. I don't care if the top said 1,000%. I don't care. Bottom percent is always 100. Of what? X goes there. X goes there. Now, can we go from 90 to 63? Does that work? No. So what we do in those cases is we simplify. So we simplify our fraction. We can only simplify that side. Hey, 90 over 100. What does that simplify to? What does that simplify to, Jenna? 9 over 10. We divide them by 10 or just cross out their zeros. We get 9 over 10. Hey, can 9 go to 63?
Yeah.
Yeah, how does it go, Nathan?
By 7.
Times 7. So we do the same to the bottom. What do we get x equal to then? 70. Exactly. So if the problem doesn't work, if you can't make 90 go into 63, if you can't make them go into it, simplify. If you can't make it go into it, simplify. So on your homework,
70.
don't use the double number lines, but you still have to do the problem.
So that's what we
Don't use the double number lines, but you still have to do the problem. So you're going to do homework page 159, and you're going to do number 10, A, B, C, D on the back page. But, yeah, that's the only one on the back page. But you guys could do that in about 4 seconds. So you do that, but not any others on page 160. You don't even do E, just number 10, A, B, C, D. Not any others on the back page.